on it. So we started off with 16 different entries for Salesforce technologies. And in the weeks leading up to this meetup, they faced off against each other just by online voting. And the two that made it to the finals were Salesforce Connect, which I'll present on, just give a brief overview of and show you what it is inside of Salesforce, and Trailhead, which then Carl will present on. And Trailhead so far looks like it's going to be the champion of our first annual SaaSness. Okay. So, my name is Peter Knoll, and I'm a solutions architect at Trifecta Technologies. I'm a Salesforce MVP and hold 8 Salesforce certifications, although that'll go down to 6 as soon as the developer and advanced developer get retired. So what I'm going to talk about is what Salesforce Connect is, how and when to use it, how you can set it up, and then how to integrate it with the rest of your Salesforce seamlessly. The Salesforce Connect is an app cloud integration service. So what that means is basically you could use it to integrate data from other systems inside of Salesforce. And roughly 1/2 of all of the transactions on Salesforce every day are integration related. And I think there's something like 3.5 billion a day now, maybe even close to 4 billion. I'm not sure a day. So what you're looking at is somewhere between 1 and 2 billion transactions a day are from just integration alone. So you could use Salesforce Connect to provide some of those integration services, depending on what your needs are. And you may not have heard of Salesforce Connect before. For a while, there was this thing called Lightning Connect. Salesforce Connect is Lightning Connect. So if you go to Trailhead or you read help pages or documentation in Salesforce, Lightning Connect has been renamed Salesforce Connect, but it hasn't been updated everywhere. So I think it was in December at some point, there was a blog post or something like that on the Salesforce developers, or maybe even the main Salesforce site, that talked about Salesforce Connect and how it's the next generation of Lightning Connect. So that eventually Lightning Connect, I guess, that term will go away and it'll just be Salesforce Connect.
Was that because people would confuse it with Lightning Interface? Is that why they got rid of it, you think?
I'm not sure that they got rid of it. For that, you can it can connect to many different things, which I'll get into. And yeah, I guess Lightning does have a lot of different uses, more towards the Lightning experience and stuff like that.
It's a lot more than Lightning. So
yeah,
maybe that's why they did it.
Yeah. So when Lightning first came out, the term Lightning encompassed a whole suite of things, including Lightning Connect, but it's moved more towards just the UI part.
Right.
Okay. And they can be expressed seamlessly as external objects. And those look basically just like custom or standard objects for the most part. I'll get into some differences. So when do you want to use these external objects or the Salesforce Connect? If you have large data volumes that you can't store in Salesforce, so you might have limits on data storage, or you might have billions and billions of records, something like that, and transactions that are happening all the time, every second or whatever, or just in some other legacy database, and you only need bits and pieces of it, and you also need real-time access. So you want to pull up a page and have that data right there. Because another possibility would be to not use Salesforce Connect and use just some ETL tool or something like that extracts, transforms, and loads into Salesforce the subset of data that you need. Maybe you just need a little or something like that. But if you need a little that could vary across a lot of different pieces, then Salesforce Connect would be would be good. And it'll load in real time, so it doesn't actually store anything in Salesforce. And then the other thing that you get with it is most of the functionality of normal Salesforce objects. I'll get into what you don't get, so that's clear. But you get the page layout. You get to relate them to other objects. You can use them in code. So there's lots of benefits to having the data represented directly as a external object through Salesforce Connect. So the way that you can actually implement Salesforce Connect is to connect to OData sources. There's no code necessary for that. So you can just go in to Salesforce, and I'll show this. You can go into Salesforce and set up an external data source and connect. You can create custom adapters. So the custom adapters require you to write code. So you write Apex code, and it can query out however it needs to through a REST API, through whatever, get back the data that it needs to, and it just needs to conform to the interfaces specified by Salesforce, and then you can use those. And then there's also a Salesforce adapter that you can use. So there's no code necessary for that. The Salesforce adapter just uses the REST API, and it doesn't support writing. So when this first came out, Salesforce Connect, you could only get read-only access, but now you can get read and write, except for the Salesforce adapter is read-only. So external objects, like I said, they appear basically just as custom or standard objects do in Salesforce, and they map the data, for example, in a database outside of Salesforce into an object, gets the data in real time. It's not copied in. But the limitations are you can't report on it, so they're not in reports. You can't use them in workflows. You can't use them in triggers. You can't use, there's no sharing rules that you can apply to them. And you can't do anything with formula fields on them. However, you can set permissions and stuff like that, but just no sharing. So go here. Time for a demo. I don't know. Found it on the internet. Okay. So the opponent to Salesforce Connect in this March SaaSness finals is Trailhead. So I actually was on Trailhead earlier, and they have a very good Salesforce Connect unit, and part of it is installing an unmanaged package in your org. It'll set you up with some sample Salesforce Connect stuff. So they create an external orders app. So this external orders app connects to a Heroku app that has a database that has order data in it. So I could show you in here, like external data sources. There's this orders DB. So in here, in the orders DB, you can see how you can choose what type you have. Which could be the Salesforce one. And then you have the allow, create, edit, and delete now, and a couple of other options that you can set as well. Server-driven pagination, if you need that, custom queries. The authentication piece is interesting. So you can authenticate by one user for the whole org if you want. So maybe you have some integration user that authenticates. You can have OAuth 2 password authentication for that. And then you can also have, you could have anonymous. You could have per user also. And then per user, each person can go in and set their own username and password. So they can do that through their own settings from like, I think it's here. Yeah, like authentication settings for external systems. So I don't have anything here, but if I did, then each individual person could go in and set up their own username and password for the system. So you can get it really, really granular to make sure that the people have the right access that they need. So the other thing on here is when you have this data source, you could do validate and sync. I'm not going to do this right now, but if you do validate and sync, it'll pull in all of the different external objects and create the external objects for you directly. You could also create them yourself, but this is the easiest thing to do. But the one thing that it won't do is it won't create relationship fields for you. So if your database has foreign keys to other tables and you pull in those tables as objects, and their foreign keys won't automatically relate to each other. They'll just come in as text fields. You have to go in and set that up yourself. So let me get back to here. So integrating with regular Salesforce, there are 3 types of relationships that the external objects can have. They can have a lookup from a custom, standard, or external object to a standard or custom object. And they can have, so the only way that they can have that is if they have a Salesforce ID column that holds the Salesforce ID. So their table in the database, wherever it is, would actually have to have the ID of the Salesforce object in it. Just kind of like the field in Salesforce does if it's just a regular object. And then there's external object, which is a lookup from anything to an external object. And there's no Salesforce ID there. And then there's indirect lookup, which is from an external object to a standard or custom object. So that's kind of like the case of a lookup when it's from an external object to standard or custom object, except it doesn't require the Salesforce ID. You use an external ID instead. And the thing that's nice about that is your other system might not actually have the Salesforce ID. So you can use the external ID in that case and the indirect lookup. Time for another demo. Slow. Okay. So now I'm going to get into the actual objects here. Back to external objects. Look at this orders object. So this orders object was synced. You can see it ends in this __ X, the API name. That's different than __ C that you might be used to. It'll sync up to the actual, it shows you what the actual table name is. What I want to show you here is an instance of an indirect lookup. So an indirect lookup is a lookup from an external object to a standard or custom object. So this looks up to an account, this customer ID field. So if I click on this customer ID field, edit here, you can see there's a target field. In this case, there's only one field possible, but it's that customer ID field. And let me show you the order. Oops.
Was that customer ID field like external ID on the account?
Yes, exactly. So customer ID, external ID, and unique. So it has to be external ID and unique. And me show you this order details. So order details is like an order line item. It's a child of order. So this has an external lookup. So remember that orders, in this case, is an external object itself. So when this data when this table or object got created from a table automatically through the validate and sync, it created this order ID field as a text field. I had to come in here and change it to be an external lookup to orders because it doesn't know to do that. But once you do that, then it's all hooked up. So it does it off of the external ID field. So let me click on that. That takes you to here. See, it's related to orders. And there's a standard external ID field on all external objects. So I'll show you what this looks like in here. So if I'm on this order, it pulled that data in real time from the Roku app, and it pulled this in real time. So you saw the related list spun a little. If there's lag time or something like that, like network or whatever, it'll slow. You can customize the related list. I customized this to have other things on it. And then you can see up here is the customer ID, and this actually goes to the account. So I'll click on this. It actually pulls up the account. That's hooked right into Salesforce. And then you can see all of the orders under it that are associated with it. And it's getting all these real time. Probably don't need to display this display URL, but that's where the OData service is. So it kind of pulls it all together really nicely. And then the other thing is that it's all available in the Lightning experience as well, and in Salesforce One mobile app. Although I think you can only manage it for the most. I was trying to do some of the management in the Salesforce Lightning experience, and I had to come back to Classic for the external objects. So I'm not sure that that's all there yet. At least what I was trying to do. I think that's mostly everything that I wanted to discuss. I didn't get into the custom adapters as much. That's its own other session. So, which we actually had somebody do a session at the Lehigh Valley Salesforce Developers Group on. I've left the link up here for it. His name was Neil Holbert.
Is that him in the corner?
That could be. So he did an entire session on custom adapters for Lightning Connect. It was really good. We have it out on our YouTube channel, and you can see it all there. So I didn't get into it as much. And then there's a Trailhead Lightning Connect module that you can go out and do as well, which is really good. That's it for Salesforce Connect. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one other plug for Salesforce Connect before halftime here.
Okay.
Salesforce Connect also supports what's known as Files Connect. It's the underlying technology where if you want to have files inside of SharePoint 365 or SharePoint Online, as well as Box or Google Docs, that's actually what's used behind the scenes so that you can put in and do a global search and actually have your documents be searched in other systems, see them in your list, put them on a related list of objects as well too. So it helps facilitate that technology as well.
Nice. That's really useful.
All right, so we're at halftime. We're going to switch sides here.
Yeah.
Just really a fair fight. Peter basically said you need Trailhead to learn how to do Salesforce Connect.
It's helpful. Okay, we'll cover Trailhead next. So my background, Director of Product Solution Architect at Fortimize. We are a Salesforce SI ISV. We are focused on financial services and real estate. We have a product pillars that helps serve the real estate market. I'm 11X certified. I will see some of those drop off like Peter does at the end of the year. My background, MBA, computer engineering in Lehigh, PMP certified, and a fun factoid, I've rode over 3.6 million meters, most of it on a Concept 2. So how have we gotten here to Trailhead is the SASE bracket champion? Well, in round one, Trailhead really took it to developer forums, followed on strong and beat Developer Console, kind of becoming the favorite in the rest of our tournament. And then REST API really didn't have a chance. So that brought us to today, Trailhead versus Salesforce Connect. So what is Trailhead? Well, Trailhead's a fun, guided, interactive way to learn Salesforce. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You can get in there. You can learn about a lot of different stuff without forking over any money whatsoever. There's paths that are set up for administrators, developers, users, managers. Really, it's for everyone. So how does it work? Well, I think most of you know you start out on a trail, which has a collection of modules. So for example, if you're looking for intermediate skills in developer, this will take your apps to the next level. What you can do is you can go through and you can see how much time a particular trail will take. So it gives you an idea from a planning purpose. And then you can chart your progress as you go through that trail to see whether you're 50% done, 100% done. You can see for me, I have about 90 minutes left on the developer intermediate trail. What happens over time is Salesforce will release new content for Trailhead. So you may be done with a particular trail, but then as a new module comes out, you'll be able to go back and finish that new module. So I mentioned modules. Inside of a trail, there's one or more modules that's focused on a particular topic. So if I look at one of those trails for developers, there's Lightning Components, and there's Lightning Connect, aka Salesforce Connect. So just kind of to stick it to Salesforce Connect a little bit, you can learn it from Trailhead to get started. So inside of these modules, again, you can see there's 9 units and 3 units. It'll show you how far you are progressing. And you can see inside of each unit, further breakdown of different sets of details. So introduction to Lightning Connect, setting up Lightning Connect, integrating external data. So everything Peter showed you, if you want to practice on your own, you can jump over to Trailhead, go through those modules, set up a connection to a Heroku example database, and get your hands wet with Salesforce Connect. So what's in a particular unit? Well, units are pretty much set up the same way. It'll let you know how long this unit will take. So if you have a free 15 minutes, you can jump in and go through this. I find if you read all the documentation that's linked to it and check all the videos, the times are pretty accurate. If you just kind of stick to what's in the module and the unit, you usually can get done a little bit faster than the times that are listed. So it just depends how diligent you are. The module will start off by telling you your learning objectives. There'll be a set of instructions to get you introduced to the topic. So sometimes there'll be videos, there'll be charts or figures. There's always examples on how to do different things. You'll have related resources that you can link out to. Give the TV a minute to turn back on because it's 7 o'clock. Maybe.
Peter's cheating. Just turn it off on you.
That's one way for Salesforce Connect to win. All right, so in those related resources, you may see links to help documentation, developer sites, success communities, different areas. And then you also have a set of challenges. And these challenges would include hands-on, Peter, we're not on the screen there. Let's see. So if I jumped into the Lightning Connect module, we can take a look at that here in a second. Perfect. Thank you. So in here, you can see all the details, the learning objectives, so setting up Lightning Connect, how you can create an environment, an overview of the setup. So it'll walk you through. You'll have lots of different tips on just different pointers where you may have a stumbling block or something that's important to know. Here's the examples that I mentioned. So in this case, it actually goes out to some resources where you can install something to get you started. So you don't always have to start from scratch. If I jump down to the bottom, you'll have a set of resources. So this will link you out to a help document. These also go to a help document. So different ways where if you get stuck when you're doing a challenge, you can do it. You can find some help. One of the nice things about the challenges is they come in two forms. They come in questions that you have to answer, which usually if you're diligent about reading the instructions, you can answer those questions. Or it's an exercise. So you actually log into a developer org, go through the set of steps, and then check your work. So validate that you actually understand the topic. You'll go through, test out, make sure that what you created is actually in the org, and give you points. So what are the points? Well, it's like whose line is it anyways? The points are made up and they don't matter. But when you complete a set of modules, you get badges. So you get points to show that you've done a unit. And then after you've completed all the units in a module, you get a badge that you can put on your profile or you can share with others. You can tweet out, post to Facebook, and have a social aspect of Trailhead.
You do get more points though if you answer correctly on the first try.
So the exercises that have questions, yes, if you answer correctly the first time, it's typically 100 points. If you miss question, it's 50, and after that, you get 25. So if you are like my good friend Peter and never want to get a wrong answer, you'll stress over it and make sure you get the answers right. If you're like me and are in a hurry, you don't care about the 25 points because at the end, it doesn't matter. So I talked about exercises. If I look at the example for Lightning Connect, it actually takes you through getting phone information inside of Salesforce from a Heroku app. So great hands-on exercises for different things. What's the history of Trailhead? Where does it come from? Well, it's relatively new in the Salesforce world. It launched at Dreamforce 2014, and it was really focused more on a developer, had a technical focus at first. I think those of you that went to Dreamforce, you saw a lot of the early modules, and they definitely were focused at the developers. But it really caught on quickly. We're a place for people to go learn. I'm relatively new into the Salesforce world, and when I first started learning, there's a lot of resources out there, but figuring out where to start was really tough. There's so much stuff out there. Where's a good place to start learning Salesforce? I think Trailhead quickly filled that void. What they found over time is as they expanded content, released new trails, released new modules, that this wasn't just a developer-only tool. It could be useful for admins. It could then, this past Dreamforce, be helpful for users. There was a whole set of modules on the Lightning experience. If you're a user, what's the Lightning experience mean to you? If you're an admin, how do you migrate from the Lightning experience? If you're a developer, what do you need to start thinking about with the Lightning experience? In 2016, you've seen an expansion of Trailhead into non-technical topics as well too. So you got the admins covered, you got the developers, you started to see users, but there's topics around managers, how to be a great manager. What does it mean to manage in the Salesforce way? What's the value of diversity in a working environment? So ability to put topics that aren't necessarily technical into Trailhead, go through, give people resources, evaluate. And I think if I look at the crystal ball, you're going to see more and more of that where Trailhead even starts expanding outside of the Salesforce world. You need it for education to help students learn. Trailhead's going to be for that. If you want to, as you're building an app from an ISV perspective, you want to help your customers learn your app, Trailhead's going to be for that. So you're going to see it be part of the ecosystem of Salesforce moving forward. So then who's Trailhead for? Well, we talked about developers, Apex, Visualforce, Lightning, Mobile, and more. We talked about admins, the ability to do customization, so the clicks, not code on top of Salesforce, data modeling, setting up schemas. There's a lot of information on Salesforce One. Managers can do coaching, management, lessons on equality. There's analytics trails in there. You can look at Salesforce reports and dashboards. You even have a focus session on Wave. There's topics there for ISVs. How do you get started as an ISV? What does it look like to consider building an app for the App Exchange? What are the different tools and technologies that you have at your disposal? We talked about users, an introduction to CRM, Salesforce Basics, Lightning. There's trails out there for nonprofits, the fundraiser, the nonprofit starter pack. So it's really for everyone. Everyone can access Trailhead and get started with it. So how do you access it? Well, you saw me go to the website. That's easy. But what you want to do is you want to log in with an account so that you can track your progress. You can use a personal developer account if you want that information to kind of stick with you as you move from company to company. Or if you're using it for business purpose, if part of work is, well, you need to get 5 badges this year as part of your objectives, then you can use a company account. Keep in mind, as you move, that company account might not move with you. When you are in Trailhead and you need to link to a developer org to do different exercises, it doesn't have to be the same org that you log in with. So you can log in with a developer org, and if it's a Wave exercise, well, they might tell you, here, go create a specific Wave developer org. You can use that on one of the trails. You can then use a completely different developer org on another trail. So don't think that each challenge has to be the same org that you're logged in with. You can use whatever org makes sense for that particular trail. So I'd encourage people to find a trail of interest and go jump in. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you kind of my highlight reel, some things that I thought were interesting from a Trailhead perspective. Maybe you haven't seen this come out recently. I thought I was doing good. I think I have like 83 badges. Now there's 90 modules. Like, you can't keep up. You think you get there, and then they release a bunch of new content. So it's always changing. We know that the Lightning experience is relatively new. That's something that has come out last summer, the end of last summer, last fall. There are trails focused on developers. How do you develop for the Lightning experience? What's the Salesforce Lightning design system? I have links into all these, so if you want to take a look at the presentation, you can jump right into them. They have trails for new admins. If you're a new customer, you haven't used Salesforce Classic before, you can jump right into the Lightning experience. Or if you're planning that migration, there's all the things you need to consider around change management. How do you get users on board? What's the experience like? Because it is different than Salesforce Classic. Mobile is definitely part of our world nowadays. There's trails on the mobile SDK, so building an iOS app with the SDK, building an Android app or a hybrid app. There's also a trail on Salesforce One, so if you want to use what's in there from a Salesforce perspective as well too, you can learn about that. Something came out very recently. There's a .NET transition trails. So if you're very familiar with Microsoft .NET stack, using SQL instead of SOQL, this trail will help you make that conversion and translate for you, which I think would have been nice when I was starting out to say, well, if you know SQL, this is how SOQL is similar, but this is how it's different. If you know how to do a C# or VB.NET app, this is what it looks like inside of Apex. So really to help get others on board. There's also trails around integrating with Exchange, Microsoft products. It talks you through the Salesforce for Outlook app, the new Salesforce, Salesforce Outlook app is the new one, the classic Salesforce side panel. So some details on there and what the differences are, how to make choices. Release training is starting to appear inside of Trailhead. So before you had kind of these scattered places where you'd go look at some documents here, you watch a video there. Well, there's a Spring 16 release training out there where you can go through the different things where it talks about Sales Cloud. I'll actually jump to this one because this one is good. You can see things around the release, Sales Cloud, what's new in Service Cloud, how has the Marketing Cloud features changed, Community Cloud, the Analytics Cloud, the App Cloud, and then your release strategy. So as an admin, how do you get all this great functionality out to your customers? So this is kind of a way that you've seen resources in the past that have been scattered come together, your one-stop shop for learning Salesforce. And then last but not least, I want to talk about my personal favorite trail. It's the Wave Trail. So you can learn about analytics. I have a passion for Analytics Cloud. This is a great trail where you can actually get a developer org with analytics enabled. You can go in and you can do exercises. You can build out your own dashboards. You can then get the sandbox on your phone. You can take it down to a mobile phone. If you have a watch, you can even see the analytics on your watch. So really getting immersed in some of the newer technologies outside of Salesforce. And then Trailhead's not just something that you do on your own. You can be very social with it. You can show your Trailhead pride. There's steps that I've linked to for how, if you earn a badge, you can actually share it in your profile on LinkedIn. One of the recent things that they've added is you can actually show your badges in the Salesforce success community. So on your profile in the success community or the partner community, you can show how many badges you've earned and your certifications too. You can link both of those things in there so you have a complete profile of your credentials And I've linked to the instructions if anybody wants to set that up.
I like that because I've had trouble doing that.
Okay.
I've seen other people have trouble with it.
Really?
Yes.
The only thing I will tell you, there's 2 steps. One, you can't link it to multiple profiles.
Okay.
So if you're trying to do one in the partner community, one in the success community, it's not going to work.
Uh-huh.
You need to do it to one. And if you want to switch, you need to unlink it first and then link it again.
You got to make the choices.
Yes, you got to make a choice. Tough decisions. You can't have it both ways.
That's too bad. But I like that because I'm having trouble getting that.
Okay. Yeah, I went through. I was one of the beta testers, so I went through and set it up, and
Okay.
that was one of my feedbacks. Was I found that you couldn't link it in 2 places,
Right.
and knowing that.
Right.
So why should Trailhead win? Well, Trailhead's continually evolving, so it's not stale, it's not stagnant. You got new trails, modules, and content regularly being released. So 83-bit hatches, like I said, I'm 7 behind. It's for everyone, admins, developers, and users, and more. It's also available for all levels. We didn't look at all the trails, but there's beginner trails, intermediate trails, advanced trails. You can even learn about Salesforce Connect, so it encompasses its component inside of it. Did I mention it's free? And best of all, I don't see anybody walking around with any Salesforce Connect swag on them. As Peter decided to even wear, his Trailhead shirt. I got the Trailhead shirt and hoodie, Hands down, Trailhead wins the swag battle. So just some additional resources. I blog about it. Peter blogs frequently. We'll do module reviews. Jesse, do you do? I didn't put you up here, but
I don't know.
no.
I haven't blogged in a year.
Okay, so you're out. And then there's a Trailhead group on the success community if you want to connect with peers and hear what other people are doing or things that they think about modules or places maybe where they run into stumble blocks and you're running into the same one. You can see that as well too. So everyone, jump into Trailhead, learn something new. That's my pitch for why Trailhead should win. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I guess, so Trailhead seems like it's come a pretty long way. Do you see Trailhead being something that Salesforce would sell like they do some of their other clouds?
I think you'll have a learning cloud at some point in time, whether it's this Dreamforce or soon after, because you're seeing people ask for it. You're seeing ISV say, would love to put our app stuff on there. You're seeing applications where I'd like to resell training to customers and use Trailhead as the development platform. And then if you step back and think about it, the applications in an education environment to say, well, let's flip the classroom around. Instead of us teaching content during the day and you practicing homework at night, go follow this Trailhead trail, which introduces a concept. You have videos, you learn about and get introduced to it. In the classroom of the day, we'll do the quote unquote homework and go through the reinforcement and make sure you actually learn it. So I see a lot of applications like that where Trailhead can be used. So the brains over there at Salesforce are looking at how else they can monetize what started out as a free platform and turn it into something that generates a lot of revenue for them.
If I was really a popular app exchange vendor, I would love to have my product on that.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be an awesome marketing.
I think it'll be a big selling point if they can open it up to new customers. So like one of the biggest problems that people face is when you bring a huge company onto Salesforce, it's hard to get people to start following even your process. So Salesforce does a great job with Trailhead to give you a great overview of like CRM, but that doesn't necessarily say this is what our company does.
Our business processes.
Now, you get your admin in there to create a trail for your sales reps. And then all of a sudden, this tool is much more valuable than basically all their competitors because you have to invest all this other time to replicate that effort. And I think I could see them definitely doing something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sounds useful.
Any other questions?
Trailhead wins.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we gonna go through the big review?